I still remember the sterile chill of the hospital corridor, the way the fluorescent lights hummed overhead as if whispering warnings I couldn't yet understand. I'd come to visit my grandmother after her hip surgery, armed with flowers wrapped in pink tissue and a novel I thought would lift her spirits. But as I rounded the corner toward her room, I saw him, Andrew, my first love, standing alone by a window, his profile soft in the harsh white light. It had been 15 years since we'd last spoken. In high school, he was the boy with restless dark eyes, who taught me how to laugh and how to dream. We'd spent afternoons hidden in the old oak grove behind campus, sharing secrets and kisses, promising each other the world. But life had pulled us apart. A scholarship across the ocean for him, and obligations at home for me. Our goodbye had been tearless, a quiet surrender to circumstances neither of us controlled. Now he stood there, tall and still, one hand resting against the frosted glass. His once vibrant hair was shorter, flecked with strands of silver I didn't expect. I paused, my breath catching in my throat. He tilted his head, as if sensing someone behind him. And when our eyes met, time fractured. He blinked, confusion and disbelief flashing across his face. Then he opened his mouth, but no words came. I forced myself forward, each step heavy as though wading through water. Andrew, my voice came out softer than I intended, but it was enough. His brow furrowed, and he turned fully to face me. The years melted away in that moment. His easy smile, the warmth in his gaze, the way he'd hold my hand to steady me when I was scared. "Claire," he said, voice low. He ran a hand through his hair, half smile returning, but tinged with something guarded. Wow, I never thought I'd see you here." I swallowed hard, the pink tissue of the flowers crumpling slightly in my grip. "I came to see Grandma," I managed. "And you?" He hesitated, glance drifting back to the window. "I'm here for some tests." His eyes flicked away, and suddenly the hospital walls closed in around me. A wave of dread washed over my chest. "I'm sorry," I blurted. "I didn't mean to startle you." I forced a small laugh to hide the sudden tremor in my voice. "It's just, you look so different," he offered a rueful smile. "I'm not exactly in the best shape." He gestured to the laminated wristband on his arm. "They've been poking and prodding me all morning." A nurse passed by, wheeling a cart of charts and vials. Andrew stepped aside to let her through, and I noticed for the first time the faint tremor in his hand as he touched the glass. My heart seized. "Can I sit with you?" I asked, nodding toward the small window bench. My grandmother's room was just down the hall. I could be on my way in seconds. He hesitated, then smiled softly. "Yeah. I'd like that." We sat side by side on the hard vinyl bench, the window between us reflecting our blurred forms. I placed the flowers on the ledge and unfolded my novel, though I knew I wouldn't read a word. Instead, I watched him, searching his face for clues. His jaw was more defined now, cheeks a little hollowed, but his eyes still held that spark that had drawn me to him years ago. How are you?" I asked, my voice catching on the final word. He took a steadying breath. I'm okay. They're doing some tests to figure out what's going on. I've been feeling off for a while." "Feeling off," I echoed, trying to tread lightly. He winced. "Maybe more than off." He paused, staring at the window. "I saw the neurologist today." He turned to me, eyes solemn. "They found something unusual." My throat tightened. What did they say?" Andrew's gaze dropped to his hands. "They saw lesions on my brain scan. They think it might be multiple sclerosis." The words landed like stones in my chest. I blinked, head swimming. "MS?" I whispered. The memory of our autumn afternoons, him tossing me in the air, me laughing until I cried, felt both distant and achingly vivid. He nodded. "They're not 100% yet. More tests next week, but it's likely. Tears blurred my vision. I blinked them back, leaning closer. I'm so sorry, I murmured. My hand trembled as I reached out, hesitating just above his shoulder. He turned, giving me a gentle, sad smile. Don't apologize, he said softly. It's not your fault. He paused. I'm glad you're here. I swallowed past the lump in my throat. Me too, I whispered. In that moment, the years of distance, the pain of unspoken goodbyes, the rush of young love, it all converged with the urgency of his diagnosis. My chest ached with love and fear and helplessness. He turned back to the window, and I sat quietly, offering my presence as the only comfort I could. The world outside drifted on. The distant hum of nurses' shoes, the beeping of monitors, the muted conversations of visitors. But in our small corner by the glass, time slowed, and the weight of his diagnosis settled between us. I closed my eyes for a moment, breathing deeply to steady the trembling in my limbs. When I opened them, he was watching me with that same gentle intensity. Claire, he said, voice catching. Thank you for being here. I lost touch, and I'm sorry for everything. My vision blurred, but I forced a smile. You don't have to apologize. My voice trembled. I swallowed hard. I still care about you. I'll help however I can. He reached for my hand, and I placed mine in his. The warmth of his skin grounded me. In that hospital corridor, amidst uncertainty and fear, we found each other again, uncertain of the road ahead, but certain of the bond that had survived years and distance. As we sat holding hands by the window, I knew that nothing would ever be the same. His diagnosis had shattered the calm of my life, but it had also opened a door to something precious, the chance to love him, to stand by him, to fight this battle together. Silence settled between us as the afternoon light shifted through the frosted window. I could feel the weight of his diagnosis pressing on my chest, making each breath feel heavy. Andrew's fingers curled around mine in a quiet plea for reassurance, one that I wasn't sure I could fully give. Do they know what this means for everyday life? I asked, voice small. He closed his eyes, struggling for the right words. Right now, it's unclear. Some people manage with minimal symptoms for years. Others, it can progress quickly. My heart thundered. I thought back to our high school days, our first road trip, his hand gripping mine as we navigated unfamiliar turns. I remembered his laughter echoing in my ears and the way he'd brush a lock of hair from my face. Now those memories were tinged with fear and uncertainty. I can't imagine what you're going through, I said, squeezing his hand, but you won't have to face it alone. He opened his eyes and gave me a grateful, if haunted, smile. Thank you, that means more than you know. The hallway lights flickered as footsteps approached. A nurse carrying an IV stand. Andrew stood to let her pass, offering a polite nod. I watched as she guided him down the hall toward the neurology department for additional tests. My heart pounded as I followed, realizing I needed to be there for him without overstepping. In the compact examination room, the neurologist, an empathetic woman with gentle eyes, reviewed his scans and test results in hushed tones. I perched on the edge of a plastic chair, feeling out of place in my clean jeans and sweater, clutching my phone like a lifeline. Mr. Williams, she said, pointing to the MRI image on the screen. These lesions here and here are consistent with demyelination, which is often seen in multiple sclerosis. We will need to run blood tests, evoked potentials, possibly even a spinal tap, to confirm the diagnosis. Andrew nodded, jaw clenched. His eyes flicked to mine, searching for support. I offered a shaky nod. I'll be here, I whispered. The neurologist clicked through more images. We'll start you on steroids to reduce inflammation, and we'll explore disease-modifying therapies once we have a confirmed diagnosis. It's a journey, but there are treatments that can help manage symptoms and slow progression. A surge of hope sparked in my chest. While the road ahead was uncertain, there was a path forward. I jotted notes on my phone, partly to appear useful, partly to keep my hands busy. After the appointment, we sat in the hospital cafe, a stale air of institutional coffee filling the small space. He stirred his tea absent-mindedly, and I pushed a muffin toward him. "I feel like I'm back in high school," he said quietly. "Remember how nervous I was before the math test?" I offered a wry smile. "Yes. I gave you a good luck kiss that you said was the reason you passed." He chuckled softly, and I caught a glimpse of the boy I'd fallen for so long ago. "I needed that," he admitted. "And I need that now." I reached across the table and took his hand again. "Consider it your lifelong good luck charm." He squeezed my hand and met my gaze. "Thank you for everything." Back in the corridor, I hesitated before leaving. He looked at me with vulnerability I hadn't seen in years. No pretenses, no bravado. Just a man in need of support and care. "I should get back to Grandma," I said. "But I'll be back as soon as I can." He nodded. "I'll be here." I kissed his cheek, a tender gesture that bridged past and present. As I walked away, I felt tears prick my eyes, but I refused to turn back and break the promise I'd made. To stay strong, to stay present, to fight alongside him. My steps carried me down the corridor toward my grandmother's room, but my mind remained with Andrew. His surprised face, the tremor in his hand, the unspoken fears in his eyes. His diagnosis had shattered illusions of my perfect world, but it had also reignited something I thought long buried, a fierce protective love and a determination to face whatever came next with courage. My grandmother's hospital room felt both familiar and surreal when I entered, flowers in hand. She smiled weakly from her bed, propped up by soft pillows. "Claire, dear, you look tired," she said, voice gentle. I perched on the edge of her bed. "I've been busy." I paused, offering her the pink roses. "Here, they're for you." She inhaled the scent and smiled. "Thank you, darling." Her gratitude was a balm, but my thoughts kept drifting back to Andrew. I explained, as simply as I could, that I'd run into an old friend, and that friend might be very sick. Her brow furrowed with concern. "MS is serious," she said after a moment. "I'm so glad you're there for him." I took her hand. "He needs someone." After a gentle visit, I promised to return soon and slipped out. The corridor lights felt colder this time, and I found myself retracing my steps back to Andrew's room, my heart a jumble of hope and fear. I paused outside his door, inhaling. Would he want me here again? I knocked softly and entered. He was reading a pamphlet about MS, his expression grave. "Hey," I said quietly. "Thought you might like some company." He looked up, relief flickering. "Thanks." He patted the chair beside him. I sat, handing him a cup of herbal tea. "I called your sister," I confessed. "She's on her way." He nodded, emotion flickering in his eyes. "I'm glad." We talked quietly about childhood memories, lazy summers by the lake, secret midnight swims, anything to bring lightness. His laughter cracked through the gloom like a lifeline. Hours passed. The afternoon sun dipped, casting long shadows. When his sister arrived, I slipped away, promising to return first thing in the morning. Walking home, the weight in my chest remained. His condition was serious, but the bond between us felt renewed, anchored by years of unspoken care and my promise to stand by him. The next morning, dawnlight tiptoed through the blinds as I hurried into the hospital. My grandmother had been discharged, so I headed straight to Andrew's room, carrying a thermos of coffee and a small tray of his favorite breakfast, scrambled eggs and whole-grain toast. He looked up when I entered, exhaustion etched in the lines around his eyes. "Morning," I said, setting the tray on his bedside table. "Thought you might need a real breakfast." He managed a tired smile. "You didn't have to." "I did," I replied. "Now eat before they call you in for more tests." We sat together in companionable silence, the scent of coffee mixing with antiseptic. I watched him eat, the simple act both comforting and heartbreaking. He was still the same caring boy I once knew, only older and vulnerable. A nurse arrived to escort him to the radiology department. I walked beside him, gripping his hand through the hallway, steadying him as he navigated the slippery floor. He winced at the cold metal of the wheelchair. In the dim, humming room, they prepped him for a spinal tap. I held his hand as much as I could, the steel needle looming above. His eyes locked on mine, and I whispered, "I'm right here." When it was over, they sent me out while they collected the sample. I paced in the waiting area, heart pounding, replaying every moment of our reunion. The image of him flinching as the needle entered his spine haunted me. Finally, the neurologist appeared. "All done," she said gently. "We'll have definitive results in a few days." I exhaled, relief and helplessness intertwining. I walked back into the procedure room to find Andrew propped up, blinking at the bright lights. I took his hand. "You did great," he offered a small laugh. "Feels like I've been kicked by a rhinoceros." I squeezed his hand. "Hang in there." That afternoon, we shared a quiet conversation punctuated by silences filled with unspoken concern. I read aloud from silly gossip magazines, and he chuckled more than once. Laughter, I realized, was as vital as any treatment. As dusk settled, I helped him back to his bed. He turned off the overhead light and reached for the journal I'd slipped him the first day, the one with all our old photos and the promise to fight together. He opened to a blank page and wrote, April 7th. Today I faced my fears, and she was there holding my hand. I know I'm not alone. I closed the journal and kissed his forehead. That's beautiful, he smiled. Only the truth. We sat in the dark, the soft beeping of machines, a lullaby. Outside, a storm rumbled, rain tapping the windows. I leaned into him, grateful for our shared strength, even as the real journey, treatment, uncertainty, hope, stretched out before us. The next morning, the hospital corridors felt quieter, a lull in the usual bustle. I arrived early, cradling a bouquet of daisies Andrew had mentioned loving years ago. He looked up with a weary smile when I entered the room. These are beautiful, he said softly. I thought they could brighten this place, I replied, arranging them bedside. The fresh scent filled the sterile air, and for a moment the room felt less like a hospital and more like a home. He winced as he tried to shift in bed. The steroids are helping, but my muscles are still weak. I pulled a chair close and held his hand. One day at a time. You're doing amazing, he sighed, eyes misting. I'm scared, honestly. I brushed a strand of hair from his forehead. It's okay to be scared. We'll face it together, every scan, every treatment, every uncertain step. His hand squeezed mine. Thank you. That afternoon, after he rested, I suggested a distraction, reading our old letters from high school. He hesitated, then nodded. I retrieved a small box from my bag, tattered envelopes filled with memories. As I unfolded the first letter, his face softened in a mix of nostalgia and surprise. He listened as I read my teenage words, declarations of devotion, dreams of future travels, plans for a life we thought we'd share. When I finished, he closed his eyes. I'd forgotten how fearless we were. We can be fearless again, I whispered. He opened his eyes, resolve flickering. You're right. In the days that followed, we settled into a new routine. Mornings of treatments and tests, afternoons of shared stories and gentle laughter, evenings of hope and planning. We spoke of clinical trials, specialists, therapy techniques, becoming partners in his care. One evening, as I was leaving, he pulled me close. Promise me something. Anything. He looked into my eyes. Don't lose yourself in this. Keep living, keep dreaming. I hugged him tightly. I promise. Walking back to my grandmother's house, I felt the weight of his plea. I would not let the fear of his illness eclipse my own life. I would nurture our bond and my own spirit, so I could be strong for both of us. A week later, spring had begun to unfurl its green promise, even inside the hospital walls. I arrived, hands full of warm muffins freshly baked from my grandmother's kitchen. Andrew's room felt somehow less daunting now. His spirits lifted, if only slightly, by the support we'd woven together. He greeted me with a tired but genuine grin. "You brought the best muffins in the world," he joked, taking one. I checked. "They're still the best," I teased, settling into the chair beside his bed. We shared breakfast in companionable silence. Then, with careful deliberation, he reached under the pillow and pulled out our journal. He flipped to the latest entry, my promise not to lose myself. He looked up at me. "I've been thinking about what I want to do once things get better." My heart quickened. "What's that?" He traced a finger along the page. "I want to start a support group for young adults with MS. I remember how alone I felt hearing the diagnosis. If I could help even one person feel less afraid, it would mean everything." Tears pricked my eyes. "That's incredible. You'll be amazing at it." His smile faltered a bit. "I'm scared it might be too much." I took his hand. "We'll figure it out together, logistics, outreach, the whole thing. You'll have my full support." He squeezed my hand, relief evident. "Thank you." The rest of the day passed with bursts of planning and hope. We drafted a mission statement on scraps of paper, brainstormed names, Hope and Health Collective, new chapters, and laughed over possibilities. His energy flared anew in that collaborative spark. That night, I left the hospital feeling buoyant for the first time since his diagnosis. The path ahead remained uncertain, but we had a shared vision, a purpose beyond our own fears. Early morning reflection. I found myself unable to sleep, so I penned an entry in our journal, April 20th. He dreams of helping others navigate this journey. I will stand by him, and together we will turn fear into action. His diagnosis shattered me, but now it guides us toward purpose and connection. I closed the journal and placed it under my pillow, a silent oath to our shared future. The morning light spilled into Andrew's room in soft swaths, heralding another day of tests, treatments, and small victories. I entered with my grandmother's crossword puzzle in hand, a ritual I had started to keep our minds sharp and spirits lifted. Andrew looked up from reviewing drafts of his support group outline. "Morning, Claire," he greeted, voice steady and warm. I set the puzzle on the bedside table and handed him a pen. "Ready for today's challenge?" He chuckled and took the pen. "Always, but first." He paused, drawing in a breath. "I've been thinking about our support group's launch event. I want it to be on campus, where we met all those years ago." My heart warmed at the thought of bringing his vision to life. "That's perfect," I said. "I'll reach out to the university events office today. We should also prepare an email list, social media posts, flyers." He nodded enthusiastically, and we dove into planning. Between sips of hospital water and puzzle clues, we mapped out timelines, discussed keynote speakers, perhaps a renowned neurologist, and brainstormed ways to share personal stories without fear. I watched him transform, from a patient fighting an invisible illness to a leader rallying others with empathy and courage. After our brainstorming, I accompanied him to his afternoon infusion. As the IV drip carried steroids into his veins, I read aloud from the crossword puzzles trivia section, fun facts about old Hollywood stars and classic literature, to distract him from the slow drip of the IV and the throbbing discomfort in his spine. He laughed more freely than he had in weeks, and I realized that laughter had become our balm. That evening, I took the journal we'd started and wrote a new entry. April 25th. Today, he envisioned hope for others. I witnessed his transformation from patient to advocate. His diagnosis shattered my world, but our shared purpose rebuilds it stronger than before. I closed the journal and placed it near his pillow. Moments later, he reached for it. "I read that," he said softly. "Thank you for believing in me." I leaned over and kissed his forehead. "Always." Epilogue 6 months later. The university auditorium hummed with anticipation. Rows of chairs filled with students, alumni, faculty, and medical professionals created a mosaic of diverse faces, all drawn by hope and curiosity. At the front stage, a banner displayed the support group's name in bold letters. New Chapters, MS Community Collective. A circle of chairs waited at center stage for a panel of speakers, including Andrew and several young adults who had bravely agreed to share their journeys. Backstage, I helped Andrew adjust his microphone. His suit jacket fit more comfortably now, tailored not just to his body but to his renewed confidence. "Ready?" I whispered. He nodded, taking a steadying breath. "Thanks to you," I smiled. "Just remember, they need you." He walked onto the stage with measured steps, greeted by warm applause. I took a seat in the front row, heart swelling with pride and emotion. Andrew began. 15 years ago, I met Claire in this very town. We were young, in love, full of plans. Life led me away, and a diagnosis nearly broke us apart. But today, we gather here to turn a moment of fear into a movement of support. His voice grew stronger with each sentence, his passion igniting the room. He introduced the panelists, friends who described symptoms, treatments, and the power of community. He shared statistics alongside personal anecdotes, blending data and humanity in a way that resonated deeply. Midway through his speech, he paused and looked directly at me in the audience. Our eyes met, and he said softly but firmly, "And to my first love, who stood by me through every scan, every treatment, every doubt. I couldn't have written this chapter without you." My eyes blurred with tears as the audience erupted in applause. Andrew continued, concluding with a hopeful vision. New Chapters isn't just a support group. It's proof that even when life shatters our expectations, we can come together to heal, to learn, and to write our own stories, one page at a time. As he stepped down, I joined him on stage. We embraced, the spotlight casting our silhouettes onto the smiling faces before us. Together, we shared a moment of silent gratitude for the past that shaped us, the struggles that refined us, and the future we would face side by side. After the event, as we mingled with attendees, I noted the warmth in their thank you messages, the hopeful glint in their eyes. Families hugged, friendships formed, and resources were exchanged. An entire community born from courage and compassion. That night, back at home, we closed our journal for the final time. On the last blank page, I wrote, October 30th. From first love to fearless advocates, we turned our heartbreak into hope. Every challenge became a stepping stone. Together, we wrote a new chapter, not just for us, but for everyone ready to journey with us. I laid down the pen and looked at Andrew. He took my hand and smiled, grateful, relieved, and ready for the chapters yet unwritten. In the quiet of our living room, with soft lamplight and the distant hum of the city, we understood that life's true magic lies not in flawless beginnings, but in our willingness to face adversity, to support one another, and to write stories of resilience, love, and hope, page by page, chapter by chapter,